2023 arrived, and Sony have said this is an important year for PlayStation gamers. But what does that actually look like? I've compiled every PlayStation exclusive game I can find that is coming out in 2023 and beyond, to see firsthand what we can expect. Here are the rules. If a game is tied to PlayStation but is also available on Xbox, that is not allowed. So no, no, and no. There are only two ways to get on this list. A full PlayStation exclusive, that means the game is only playable on PlayStation, and the second way is via a console exclusive, which means the game can release on PC, but not right away on other consoles or VR devices. Weird rules, aren't they? There's 28 to get through, so let's do this. Spider-Man 2 is the game most of us are desperate to play, and it's also one of the first games to completely abandon the PS4. Spider-Man 2 is PS5 only. After living through the sublime 2018 game, which saw us play as Peter Parker, and then a shorter second game starring Miles Morales, released in 2020, it's now time for the two of them to come together. The two Spider-Men have key differences. For Miles, he has electromagnetism and can turn himself invisible, whereas Peter is a bit more basic. Spider-Man 2 has confirmed both heroes will be returning, and who will they go up against? Well, we think we heard the voice of Kraven the Hunter in the trailer, and of course we saw the reveal of this guy, Venom himself. Look out for Spider-Man 2 coming in autumn, which is September, October or November. Another game expected this year is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. The FF7 remake appeared on the PS4 back in 2020 and retold the iconic story of Cloud and the Avalanche band of misfits trying to take down the evil Shinra Corporation. That remake though decided to switch things up and change the story, keeping fans on their toes to a point where nobody knows what will happen next. Rebirth is part 2 of an intended trilogy, coming in winter 2023, which means it has to be here in December. A game you should make a note of is Rise of the Ronin, a combat-focused action RPG in a completely open world which evolves over time. Rise of the Ronin is being developed by Team Ninja, who previously made Nioh, Ninja Gaiden and DOA, infusing all the skills they've learned from those games to create Rise of the Ronin. They are already 7 years deep into development, which means we should see more very soon. A 2024 release seems promising. PSVR 2 becomes reality on February 22nd and has a bunch of exclusive games coming with it. The most eye-catching is Horizon Call of the Mountain, a standalone Horizon game where Aloy isn't the main character. We play as a disgraced former soldier who unravels a new mystery surrounding the machine animals and dinosaurs in the world, all in the hopes of redeeming himself and saving his people. Another release day exclusive for PSVR 2 is the Dark Pictures Switchback VR, a roller coaster horror shooter. We are strapped into our seats and must survive until the end of the ride. Here's a cool little gimmick. Supposedly, when the player blinks or closes their eyes, the monsters will freely move closer to you. Sounds terrifying, doesn't it? And I need to play it. Eye tracking is so sophisticated these days that in another launch game, Firewall Ultra, eye tracking chooses your weapon. Imagine Rainbow Six Siege in VR. Firewall Ultra on PSVR 2 and PS5 could be amazing. Fantavision is making a comeback on PSVR 2, a firework rhythm puzzle game. PSVR 2 also has a free upgrade for Gran Turismo 7 owners, allowing us to play the entire game in the driving seat, literally. And owners of Resident Evil Village will get a free VR upgrade for PSVR 2 on release date, so you can live out your fantasies with this big lady. I think that's enough VR for now. For fans of horror, the Silent Hill 2 remake looks amazing. One of the most loved survival horror games out there, first released in 2001 on the PS2. Our character James somehow receives a letter from his dead wife telling him to go to Silent Hill. What could go wrong? Well, absolutely everything, in fact. Expect to be pursued constantly by Pyramid Head, slowly meandering forward, dragging a sword of unfathomable proportions. This is another one of those games which will also release on PC. A game we are excited to see this year was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, another remake of a beloved game, this time from 2003. Sadly, this game has had real issues and reportedly the production cycle has been reset. It remains a PS5 console exclusive, but that that may be countless years away. A game we are expecting to see in 2023 is the long-awaited Last of Us Factions 2. Those who played the original Last of Us know about the multiplayer survival mode, which pits members of the Fireflies against hunters for supplies. The project was then disconnected from The Last of Us Part 2 to become its own game. Crafting weapons in life and death situations and setting traps when outmanned, it was a phenomenal game years ago. Let's hope it keeps that charm. Last of Us Factions is coming soon. Jumping forward to 2024 and a superhero game that can rival Spider-Man, Marvel's Wolverine. Insomniac are playing things close to their chest right now, but come the release of Spider-Man 2, we're expecting more info to drop about the man with adamantium claws. All we've seen so far is Logan sat at a bar after a brawl. Oh, and the keen-eyed have noticed that the Hulk is confirmed to be in the game, all thanks to a number plate on the wall. Marvel fans know their stuff. Remember when we looked at a Final Fantasy game? Well, here's another one, Final Fantasy 16. As always, this Final Fantasy is an action role-playing game, but for the 16th installment, it's a return to the medieval-inspired fantasy. 6 kingdoms house a person able to summon a godlike being. It's been said the team have been inspired by Game of Thrones, and we could see this Final Fantasy game going a different direction to most of the others. As also, the combat is being refined by those who created Devil May Cry. Final Fantasy 16 may be an unmissable game. Coming in April is Horizon Forbidden West's first DLC, Burning Shores. Aloy returns as a new enemy rises up after the end of the game's events, but this time we are travelling to California, and a dilapidated LA in particular. Have you seen Tchia? A tropical open-world adventure. Climbing, gliding, swimming, finding hidden coves and sailing your boat around this new world. Tchia also has a soul-jumping ability to take control of any animal you see, and many objects too. And best of all, we have a fully playable ukulele. Tchia is coming to PS4, PS5 and PC this year. Remember Project Eve? That game now has a name, Stellar Blade, and it has evolved quite a bit. Stellar Blade looks to be an action-adventure RPG with hack-and-slash fighting mechanics, all set in the post-apocalypse. Because nothing says apocalypse like those threads. Details are hard to find, but 2023 is confirmed. I'll tell you more when we know more. Late last year, Death Stranding 2 was unveiled with a lengthy CG cinematic. The original game had a polarizing effect on many players, as some loved it for its unique take on being a delivery man, and others just saw a boring walking simulator. Where do you stand on that one? Death Stranding 2, codenamed DS2, looks to continue the story from the first game with a bit of a time jump. Sam's hair is now all grey, and Fragile's body is now looking younger. We'll find out more when Kojima-san says so. Fans of Devil May Cry should keep an eye out for Lost Soul Aside. Balletic hack-and-slash fighting mechanics with sci-fi platforming and exploration sections. The adventure stars protagonist Kaiser and his shape-shifting dragon companion who can transform into various weapons for Kaiser to wield. Some of the boss fights look amazing, and now this is the 7th year of development, it's about time we saw more about the release in 2023. Granblue Fantasy Relink is coming to PS4, PS5 and PC this year, a continuation in the Granblue Fantasy series of action role-playing games. It was due out last year, but was delayed for extra polish. Goodbye Volcano High is coming around June 2023, a humanoid dinosaur in a coming-of-age story about a non-binary dinosaur named Fang. A game I'm hyped to see more of is Project the Perceiver, an open-world RPG set in China. We are a lone swordsman wandering through the world torn apart by war. The setting and the combat bear resemblance to Sekiro, another Eastern game with fantasy elements and specialised melee combat. PlayStation released a 7-minute trailer showcasing the Perceiver, and that's where the info just stops. We don't have a year yet, we don't know if the Perceiver is coming to any other platforms either, so we gotta wait. Showa American Story will release on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 and PC this year. In Showa, the United States has become an unofficial colony of Japan. However, a catastrophic incident sees monsters and zombies popping up all over the region. We play as a teenage action movie stunt woman who has mysteriously been revived from the dead. Showa American Story looks so strange. I can't wait to see more. Have you seen Infinity Nikki? The team of developers include members of the Zelda Breath of the Wild team and devs from Genshin Impact. An open world dress-up game. Let me explain. Nikki requires clothing to create powers. For example, to use a UFO to fly, we'd need to find the spacesuit, and then by donning it, we attain that power. Pretty great idea, isn't it? Searching the world for the right attire becomes the core game flow. Right now, PS5 and PC are confirmed, with a version made for mobile, with hopefully cross-progression. A game from 2021 we're still waiting to hear from is Little Devil Inside. Convallaria is a fast-paced action shooter that places teamwork and tactics at the heart of its gameplay. Players travel through a unique world in which science fiction and fantasy intertwine as we seek to reconstruct distant memories from a long-forgotten past. Here's a weird one. Pacific Drive is a run-based, first-person driving survival game. Your car is your only companion as you navigate a surreal and anomaly-filled reimagining of the Pacific Northwest. And of course, here in January, there is Forspoken just about to release, which sees a New Yorker somehow transported to the world of Athia as she develops new powers to survive this fantasy world. Whew, we did it, 28 games. What are your top 3 games? Please let me know in the comments, and if you got this far, you have my respect. I'm Adam, you're awesome, it's been a pleasure. See ya.